My name is Beth and I'm the sewing pattern designer and blogger at Sew DIY. Today I'm really excited to announce the release of a new sewing pattern. The new pattern is the Bucket Tote and it comes in 2 sizes. This has been a really fun pattern to make and to work on. The most distinctive feature of this tote is that it has an oval shaped bottom and pleats on the side. So the pleats are there so that the bottom is more narrow and then it gets wider at the top, and that makes it much easier to just see everything that you have inside your bag. So it's really great for just carrying around. You can throw everything in and then easily access it. If you've ever had a bag that's narrower at the top, then I'm sure you can understand what a pain it is when you're trying to rustle around and find what's in your bag. I first designed this bag as part of a project on my Substack Sewing with Numbers, where I did a whole series of posts about designing with curves and circles. The final post in that series was a project journal where I designed my own bag. And this is that first version, and the final one is still really similar to that. The big change that I made was I decided that I didn't want the pleats to be sewn at all. So in the instructions, I tell you to release the stitching on the pleats because I think it gives a cleaner line to the sides of the bag. I also added this kind of mini size just because I think it's so cute, and also I think it's kind of a popular style to have these days, is just a mini tote bag. It's adorable. I think it would make a great gift. Both sizes of the bag have a center pocket on the exterior. They're in between the webbing for the handles. The small size has a patch pocket on the inside, and the large size has a zippered welt pocket. So you don't actually see anything except for the zipper, and then this pocket bag is in between the lining and the zipper. And I should have mentioned that both versions are also fully lined, so you really don't have to worry about finishing seams. This larger size bag, I'm calling it the regular size, is 21 inches wide and 12 inches tall when finished. And the small size is 15 3/4 inches wide by 8 1/4 inches tall. So I also want to talk about fabric and supplies for this bag. I recommend using denim or canvas fabric, or even a corduroy I think could work really well. Also, upholstery fabric could work well for this because it has a lot of heft to it. I've done a few different bags and experimented with different layers of interfacing, and it is kind of interesting to see how they move using different fabrics. So for this first bag, I used denim for the exterior and a heavy canvas for the lining, and I really like the weight of this bag. It feels pliable, but it still stands up, and especially when I have things in the bag, it will still stand on its own. It's not going to fall over like your average lightweight tote bag. For this regular size, you need a 7-inch zipper for the welt pocket, and then a piece of lighter cotton fabric that's 10 inches by 16 inches. For the handles, I recommend a 2-inch cotton webbing. For this design and this length of handle, I used 80 inches of the 2-inch cotton webbing. For this small size, I used a canvas for the exterior with a heavyweight interfacing, and for the lining, I used a quilting cotton. This webbing is a cotton webbing, again, 1 inch wide, and I used 60 inches total. For this sample, I used a lighter weight canvas for the exterior with a double-sided interfacing and then a layer of muslin. So the exterior is really thick. It has canvas, interfacing, and muslin, and then the lining is that same thick canvas. And this one is very stiff. It stands up on its own without anything in it, but it was harder to sew. So the thicker you get, the more challenging it's going to be to work with the fabric in the sewing machine. If you want this really stiff bag, then you will need to use those extra layers, but just be aware it'll be a little bit harder than the floppier, more pliable fabric. Here's another sample. This one again is denim exterior and canvas interior. I bought a bunch of this beige canvas from Joann's a few years ago, and I've been using it for all these samples. It's been really great. I also really like using a contrast fabric for the exterior pocket because I think it really highlights the design lines of the bag. Finally, this bag was a hack, and I think this was my second version that I made. And for this one, I made a recessed zipper. So I dropped the lining a little bit and sewed in a zipper with these panels. And then I added a strap to it. And again, this is cotton webbing with some D-rings and what are they called? Clips and a slider. So this is a really fun variation, and I am planning to share how to make this hack here on YouTube and the blog. If you want to see more examples of different kinds of fabrics, I have a blog post with a bunch of tester photos on my blog, and I'll link to that down in the show notes. Also on the blog, I'm going to share recommendations and links to supplies and fabric that I have used. I'll link to the cotton webbing that I have gotten and also to this fusible tape. This is really helpful for sewing the handles onto the exterior of the bag. It's too hard to get pins or clips in there, so using an adhesive is really helpful. So check out the show notes to a link to that blog post to get all of that info. The pattern comes with a PDF instruction booklet with illustrated instructions, and then I am working on filming a sew along that I will post here on YouTube that will have all the steps and extra tips and details for you. For printing options, there's a print at home file, an A0 and a US copy shop file, and there's a projector file and a reverse projector file in case you're sewing with dark colored fabric. I want to quickly go over the pattern pieces and show you some important details and give you some tips for preparing the fabric for sewing. On page 6 of the instruction booklet, you'll find this pattern piece inventory, and I have everything color coded. So the kind of peachy color is the main exterior fabric. This blue is the lining, and then the pink is for the contrast exterior pocket. And this can also be cut from the main exterior fabric. And then for the regular size, there's also a zippered welt pocket fabric, and that one you just want to have a lightweight cotton fabric. So the pattern pieces are pretty similar between the regular and the small, the main difference being this pocket piece. For the regular, you have that zippered welt pocket, and then for the small, you have the patch pocket on the interior. Okay, let's go over all the pattern pieces. So I am showing the small bucket tote because it's a little easier to get all the pattern pieces in camera. So we start out with the exterior bottom. This is pattern piece 8. And this may be on the fold or a full pattern piece depending how you print or project. You may find that you get a more accurate cut if you have the full pattern piece, so you could print out this page twice or just draw around it on your fabric. So here is our bottom pattern piece, and I am doing interfacing for this, and I like to cut my interfacing just slightly smaller than the pattern piece, and this will reduce bulk in the seam allowance. Another thing to note on this exterior bottom is on the ends we have one single notch, and then in the center we have 2 notches. So this will be important throughout. Okay, next, let's look at the body. So we have this center body and the side body. And the side body is where we have the pleats. And these pleats are marked with notches and dots for the end of the pleat. And then the center of the pleat matches up with the single notch on the rounded side of our bottom. And then the center body, the double notch matches up with this side section of the bottom pattern piece. So I have not marked all of my notches yet because I still need to apply my interfacing. And depending on the kind of marking tool you use, that marking might disappear when you iron it. So I actually have some sample marking tools. This is a Frixion pen, which I really love to use. This is a wash away marker and just a piece of chalk. So let's just look. While we're talking about notches, we can look at an example. So with the wrong side of your fabric up, you would put your pattern piece on top, and then using your tool of choice, you can mark the notches. And what I like to do is cut a hole out for the circles and then use a pattern notching tool to cut out the notches. And you can either mark it with a pen or snip it with scissors. So speaking of that, let's look at our next pattern piece. This is the exterior pocket. This is our center of the bag, and then this pocket gets layered on top. And we're gonna fold this down and top stitch this edge. So I do recommend that you clip the notch for the fold line, because that's gonna help you fold along here. It's kind of like, it creates a crease. So I like to take my scissors and just do a quick little snip, and you want to be careful not to go into the seam line. And this is a good time to mention that the dashed line on the pattern is the seam line, and I have that on all of the pattern pieces. And then for the pockets, we have a fold line, and it's a longer dashed line. All right, and then we can also mark our notches here, and that will help us align our pattern pieces. Now let's look at the lining pattern pieces. So we have the lining bottom, and this is just a little bit smaller than the exterior bottom so that it fits more snugly inside. And it has the same notches, one at the rounded ends and then two at the straight sides. The main body of the lining is one piece of fabric, and we have the markings for the pleats and markings for the pocket. This center of the lining where there are two notches will align with one side of the bottom, and then the seam line on the other end is going to align with the other two notches. Now let's look at our pocket pattern piece. This is similar to the exterior with the seam line and the fold line. And again, I recommend clipping the notches on that fold line. Now let's go adhere the interfacing to our fabric. I'm applying interfacing to the bottom, the center body, and the side body, but not to my pockets. I'll show you how I adhere the fusible interfacing on the exterior bottom. And I have my fabric with the right side down, and then my interfacing is cut a little bit smaller. One side is smooth and one side has bumpy dots, and the dots are the glue. So I want to have those dots touching the wrong side of the fabric. So bumpy dots down. And then you want to refer to your particular interfacing instructions if you have them. And that will tell you about the heat and steam needed. I generally use pretty high heat and steam. And so you just want to lay your interfacing in place. And I often like to do just a little touch with my iron first to get it in place so it's not going to shift on me. And you may want to use a press cloth. I just have an old cotton towel. And then you can go in and hold your iron in place. So I like to hold it 15 to 20 seconds. You can hit a little steam and then lift it up and move it to the next section and hold again. And you want to do that all over your fabric. The press cloth will protect your iron from getting any of the glue onto that surface of the iron. A good indication that you are done pressing is if these dots on the interfacing have disappeared, and that will show you that they have melted and really firmly adhered to the fabric. And after you have ironed all over, you want to just let the fabric sit and cool down before moving it, and this will help ensure that the interfacing really gets a good adhesion to the fabric. And then go ahead and repeat for all the other pieces of fabric. I hope that you love this pattern as much as I do. I've been using these totes and working on this pattern for about the last 9 months, so a lot of work and care has gone into it. I'm currently working on filming the sew along, and we'll have all the details in video format for you soon. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and if you're not already following, make sure to follow and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. Happy sewing!